Hello, and welcome to this eCampus News webinar, Coping with COVID, How to Deliver a Superior Student Experience While Ensuring Campus Safety. My name is Chris Hobson, and I am the Custom Content Manager for eCampus News. And I'm excited to have you join us for what should be a very informative session. Today's webinar is sponsored by QLess. QLess specializes in queue management and appointment scheduling software, designed to help higher education institutions seamlessly manage student flow. Our intuitive mobile wait experience combines personalization, automation, analytics, and flexibility to empower students to wait for student services when, where, and how they want. Before I introduce our presenters, I'd like to take a minute to go over some features of the platform that we're using for this webinar. Today's event will be recorded, so you don't have to worry about missing a thing. Within a few days, you'll receive an email message that contains a link to the recorded webinar along with a PDF of the slides. You can submit questions at any time during the presentation by clicking on the Q&A box. There will be time at the end of the presentation for our speakers to address questions. Also, there is a group chat function that you can launch by clicking on Chat. Feel free to use this feature to contact someone from the eSchool News team if you have a technical question, but please don't use this feature to ask questions of our speaker. If you have a question for the speaker, you can use the Q&A box that I just mentioned. With these housekeeping items out of the way, let's get started with our presentation. The speakers today are Kelly Kliner, Director of Education Solutions at QLess, and Osmani Sanchez, IT Generalist 2 at Florida International University. With more than 20 years experience, Kelly oversees education technology solutions at QLess. Over the last 7 years, she has focused on college resource management, service delivery, and the student experience at both community colleges and large-scale universities. Osmani brings more than 5 years of hands-on experience in information systems, information technologies, and operations to Florida International University. At this time, I'm going to turn things over to Kelly to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Chris. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I want to start by just going over a quick agenda and giving you what you can expect to learn over the next hour together. First, I'm just going to do an overview and introduction to QLess. Then we're going to talk about how to deliver a superior student experience while ensuring campus safety. There's a lot to that. Then we're going to go over to the campus case study for Florida International. I'm going to hand it over to Osmani, and he's going to give us the details of how things have been working on his campus. I'm going to take it back and we're going to do a QLess walkthrough. So I'm really going to get into the solution itself to show you firsthand what QLess does. Then we'll open it up for some Q&A. My contact information will be shared and the resources that you can access. So let's just get started by learning a little bit about who we are at QLess. Some important things I think to note about this solution is that this is a hosted software, so nothing is on your prem. This is 100% web-based, hosted on Amazon Web Services. QLess has been around since 2007, and we are headquartered in Pasadena, California, with 2 satellite offices. We have one here in Denver, which is where I'm speaking to you from today, and another office in Eugene, Oregon. We are really very simple in terms of our mission. We were designed and created to get rid of physical lines, which has a lot more impact today, given the pandemic, than it ever has before. A little bit about our apps. We are one of the only queue management solutions that has an app for both iOS and Android. But given that, our ratings are excellent, 4.6 out of 5 in iOS and 4.9 out of 5 in Android. The industries that we serve, of course, higher education, that's one of our largest markets, and that's where I spend all of my time, and 100% of my focus is with folks like yourselves. We also serve the government space and a retail arm as well as healthcare. You can see over here on the right some of the posts or some of the magazines that we've been featured in, such as Time, WSJ, the Huffington Post, that was a fun one, the New York Times, BBC News, Fast Company, and CNN Money. What I'd like to share here is some more that's really focused on higher ed. So we've got some logos here of some of the university clients that we work with today. Lots of them are very recognizable to you, some very large four-year universities. I think what I wanted to stress here to everybody that's on this webinar today is that certainly QLess is found in some of these universities that you're seeing now, but also you can expect to find QLess in large, medium, small community colleges, sometimes even very small technical schools. It really depends upon a university's ability to deliver student services efficiently without causing their students to have to wait in a physical line. That's ever more relevant now because every school, no matter how they're sized, has to deal with social distancing and capacity issues. So we're finding that QLess is becoming even broader in the higher ed market. What are the challenges? Oh boy, this is a big one. Hopefully that I believe that we're hitting on some of them for you guys on this call, but I'm certain you may have some extra ones that we're not even aware of the challenges in higher ed that are caused by COVID-19. I think number one is community safety, right? How to stop the spread of COVID-19 and at the same time, how to stay compliant with city and county and the university regulations. I think that's a big one. The second one is operating with legacy systems and your current processes that weren't necessarily designed for a virtual environment. That can be really, really tough. You're not prepared to do those things. The systems themselves may not be flexible at all to be able to transition to the virtual environment that we're all experiencing today. How do you deliver a superior student's experience while maintaining social distancing? That's one of the biggest ones. And I think one of the biggest reasons why a lot of institutions have stayed closed, where they're not having students on campus because there's no way to do that. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is how QLess can be almost the perfect fit for providing social distancing on a campus or in any other physical space. This last one is an influx of appointment requests due to unique circumstances. So everybody's initial response to, okay, we can't have everyone just show up in person and be in a crowded lobby or standing in a line. They thought, okay, well, let's just move to appointments and we'll have everybody start to schedule. That makes perfect sense. And that is certainly an option. However, virtual queue management is even a better option. And QLess does both of those. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Aligning operations with student expectations. Okay, accessibility to critical student services regardless of the current circumstance. So nothing's really changed for students, right? Even though you guys are experiencing work at home situations where a lot of your administrative staff is no longer on campus. You may have less resources. You may have had to let people go or furlough staff. So you're dealing with maybe less resources and people that are working at home while the students' expectations haven't changed at all. So how do we make those two meet in the middle is some of the things that we want to talk about. Visibility into wait times and appointment availability. This is a big one because information is power. So if you can start to give students the visibility into, I'll use financial aid as an example. I need to see someone in financial aid. I want to be able to know what my experience is going to be like before I get there, right? The last thing I want to do or any student wants to do is go to a physical location only to see a sea of people that they have to wait in. Or maybe they find a sign on the door that says, call this number to get information. So being able to show them what wait times would be to potentially get into a virtual queue or schedule an appointment is a really key factor here. Prompt service in virtual or socially distant environment. We're going to touch on that as well. And then finally, an exceptional student experience. We want to teach you how to do that. Leveraging technology to support campus operations. Okay, so this first one, seamless transition from a physical environment to a remote or socially distanced environment. So how do we do that? We are going to take a look at, let me see here, I lost my notes. Okay, so seamless transition from a physical environment to a remote or social distance environment. One of those things to do is allows you to seamlessly transition. Some of the benefits and outcomes of virtual queuing are to employee load balance. So what that means is you're being able to see how many students are in queue, how many appointments you have, why they're in the queue, why they want to meet with you, so that you can better manage your resources by looking at your trends and your data to determine staff hours, etc. Increased visibility. So predictability for staff. You'll know what students' needs are before you meet with them. So better preparation. Walk-ins and appointments clearly differentiated in the simple user interface. And then finally, staff morale. Looking at a long line of people or seeing your phone lines jammed up is really not a great working environment. In fact, it's quite stressful. Okay, so let's talk about social distancing and customer service. I think everyone's probably tired of hearing social distancing. I know I am, but it's really a theme that's here to stay, unfortunately. So number one, how do you reduce the capacity of people in populated areas? You do that by virtual engagement models, by using virtual queuing, virtual mobile queuing. Those are ways for students to see wait times and join queues or schedule appointments without coming to your physical space first. So we'll spend some time looking at some of those screenshots here in just a little bit. And also one of the things that's interesting, the implementing the virtual engagement models, is that what QLess has transitioned to is from a traditional where students were getting into queues or scheduling appointments to come in person. Now they can schedule an appointment or get into a queue to have maybe a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting with one of your staff members, or maybe it's simply just a call back. So things have really changed in terms of the interaction itself and how that's going to take place. And then finally, maintaining service levels in a virtual environment. This is a bigger one. Although you're challenged with the same thing, the work environment, the limited staff, again, students are struggling with this pandemic, as we all are, but they're really struggling with their education. Their college experience is nothing like they thought it was going to be if they're a freshman, or nothing like it was if they're a returning student. And so us not being able to deliver student services effectively just gives them one more thing, one more reason to say, maybe now's not the time for me to pursue my degree. Maybe I need to put this off because I can't even speak to an advisor if I want to, right? The frustration is really starting to build. The lasting impact of COVID-19, not much is going to change here, guys, in the future. Remote learning and service delivery models are here to stay. Unfortunately, I think that even though COVID-19, hopefully, God willing, sometime in the near future, things are going to settle down with that. People are going to get used to these remote service delivery models and being able to wait in their residence hall or wait in class for service instead of coming in and standing in a physical line. So once the expectation is set, it's going to continue to be expected over time that they like that tool of being able to wait where they want to wait. The digital transformation is critical to growth and scale. So being able to do virtual meetings, virtual classrooms, really making that paradigm shift is going to be really important for all of us moving forward. And finally, community safety will remain a top priority. Again, COVID-19, I think, has taught all of us a lot of things about social distancing and the spread of a virus, how critical or how fast that can be. I think that even if or when COVID-19 starts to become part of our history, people are going to continue to want to be concerned about their student safety and think, why don't we just continue to limit contact as much as we possibly can, given now that we have this great technology to leverage to provide social distancing and things like that, because there's always going to be another one that's down the pipe, the next virus, the next, hopefully not a pandemic, but who knows what that might be. So that's going to continue to remain a top priority. I want to turn this over now to Asmani so he can go over his campus case study at Florida International. Asmani, here you go.
Hi, good afternoon. So just a quick overview of FIU. We're a public research university based in Miami, Florida. We're the fourth largest university in the United States by enrollment, and our current full-time enrollment is over 33,000 students. For my department specifically, we're the Office of Financial Aid Admissions and Registrations. This means that our primary service transactions are transcripts, enrollment verifications, assisting students with adding and dropping courses, establishing residency, and so on and so forth. During our peak season, We serve roughly 800 students per week. Our peak season denotes the first week before classes start and the first 2 weeks of classes. Prior to QLess, we were with a competitor. They gave us major challenges in terms of SMS delivery and system uptime. This led to regular 30-minute wait times across various queues, and during peak season, it would get worse, leading up to around an hour wait time. Students would randomly get dropped from the queues, or they didn't receive the SMS message saying it was their turn. During peak season, since the volume was so high, the server couldn't handle it and it would die, leaving us having to find a physical workaround in order to provide quality service for our students. As a result, we needed to find a solution. So we looked at other line management systems and made a matrix to evaluate these line management systems. For FIU specifically, QLess came out on top. So after the line management system and the discussions and whatnot, the solution that we had moving on with QLess is as follows. Since it's not on-prem, we don't have to worry about a server that I would have to maintain. This leads me to have a lot more free time to develop other stuff or code on other projects. And on top of moving with QLess, we took advantage of the move over to a different line management model. So now students have a point of contact before seeing a one-stop representative. For our specific case, we adopted similar to a hospital triage model, where before you see the doctor, you see a nurse to see how serious is your case? Do you have everything you need in order to provide service? And as a result, this has led to a huge boon in our average wait times and percent abandonment rate. Prior, during regular seasons, we would get around a 30-minute wait time, and now it's been cut down to as low as 10 minutes, averaging around 15 minutes. And this rings true even throughout peak season when we're servicing around 800 students per week. And our abandonment percentages dropped from around 30% to 10% or less. Actually, throughout spring peak, I saw this number go as low as 5%. And it's very interesting because when I run the reports, the total number of students served dropped as well. So I believe since students would randomly get kicked out of line on our old line management system, they would re-queue, thus inflating our numbers and inflating the number of students that we served. And that's about it. That's a wrap.
Okay, thank you for that, Osmani. I hope that was helpful for everyone to hear from someone who's working on a university campus. I want to just show you some of what QLess actually is. So what QLess is really known for, especially in higher ed, is for remote mobile queuing or remote join. QLess is the ones that invented remote join several years ago. And so what that is are ways for students to be able to either join queues or schedule appointments without, again, being in your lobby. They could be in their residence hall. They could be, maybe they're at their job. Maybe they're in class. Maybe they're having lunch with a friend. They can do one of the following things. So this first one I want to talk about is the QLess app. And this just gives you some screenshots of some different universities and how they've customized that for their students to be able to either schedule appointments or join queues. So over here to the left, you can see some different queues here, what it looks like when you say, okay, I want to see an academic advisor. Then you can select the day of the appointment, the times, add any notes. And then you'll get your confirmation in your app, the notification. You can add any additional information. And then you have these in-app actions or inline actions where you can get directions to the location you're going to, or you could leave this queue, you can cancel appointments, lots of things that you can do in the app. The app is our #1 remote join option today. Students are very app focused. I'm sure you're aware of that. Something else, so I would encourage everybody on this call to look at the app. So if you could download QLess on your phones at some point, certainly feel free to do it now. But if you can't, when you get a couple minutes, whether you have an iOS or Android device, if you just look up QLess It'll give you the opportunity to see the other universities around you and how they've customized that experience for their students. Something else that we can do with the app is if you have your own university app or your own campus portal, we can use an API to have the QLess check-in inside of your app, making that even a more seamless interface for students. So the app entry is a big one. The next remote join option is what we call text to join. And I think you guys, at least many of you, have probably used a similar service like this where you send a short code to a number to get responses back. So that's how our text to join works also. It's a number that we would assign to any college, and that college gets to choose their own short code. So whatever that might be, usually it's something very much in line with the abbreviation of the school or a mascot. Students send that short code off and they get a message back similar to what you're seeing here. So for this university, their short code is QLine. I get the response back, press 2 for payment, 3 for payroll, all of these options, okay? Here's another example. I can choose any one of these offices. Then it asks me to give more information such as my name. You can collect and customize what's important for you to extract from a student in terms of their data and their profile before they're able to join a queue or schedule an appointment. Here's one that's interesting. Once then I say my name, and this can be recognizable too. So if a student returns to any one of your queues, it's intuitive enough to say, if Nicole returns, her first message will say, "Hi, Nicole, welcome back. How can we help you?" And then she'll get these options, press 1 or 2 based on the need that she may have. So it becomes sort of that nicer white glove customer service, if you will, which is kind of nice because let's face it, students really start to feel like a student ID over the course of their education. And then here's a final one that I wanted to talk about because this is really important about the SMS messages is that, every student who joins a queue or schedules an appointment is going to get a text message that either confirms the appointment or tells them their wait time, and they'll continue to get updates about that. But it can also include instructions, maybe to bring certain documentation or any kind of reminder for them. A lot of colleges now are leveraging those custom texts to include information about their COVID guidelines, such as you're seeing here. If the lobby has more than 10 in line, we'll let you know when to come inside. Face mask protections required, or you must wait outside until it's returned. All of those things are very custom messages to make sure that the student has the proper information. So text to join is the second remote join option that QLess offers. The last remote join option is through your website, or they could also do it through an on-site kiosk, but we'll talk about the remote join. So thinking about this on your website, we can call what we call, embed rather, what we call a home kiosk link so that they can go in and start to see wait times and appointment availability and join from there. So here's just a couple screenshots that I wanted to share with you. This school is collecting first name, last name, cell phone number. They are collecting the student ID. A lot of colleges do that. Some will make it optional. They want to be certain that even a prospective student may be able to come and speak to somebody on campus. Or of course, for that student who doesn't have their student ID with them, they don't remember what the number is. It can be an optional field. But here you can see what all of the queues are at this particular college and this campus. All of the queues that are not being serviced, of course, are grayed out, so nobody's joining those. Students have the ability to join queues or schedule appointments from here. And then again, we always want to get to when a student says, okay, I need to come into advising. QLess wants to go to that second layer and understand exactly why they want to come to advising. So that's what you're looking at here, is the reasons for visit based on that office. And this is really important, I'd say, for a few reasons. The obvious one is it helps us better prepare your staff for the next interaction, right? What are you going to be doing with the student? But it also helps us give you really good data. A big deliverable for QLess, a very powerful one, is the analytics that you can extract from the solution. And so being able to understand how many students you see and the reasons that you're seeing them for, how long those visits take, is all part of them telling us why they're coming in. But it also may have to do with the custom text. So if they say, I'm coming in for new FAFSA help, our reply might be, here's a 5-minute video on FAFSA, or make sure you bring this documentation. Any kind of reminder or preparatory message we can give them in the text, we want to include that, okay? Here's where you can give students the option. QLess does both. Remember, at our core competency is queue management, but we're also an appointment scheduling tool. And most universities use us for both. So you can have queues that look like this, that are a hybrid. I see students by walk-in and appointment, or you may have a queue that's dedicated to walk-in only, or it's dedicated to appointment only. So you have some options there, very customizable. That's really everything that I have to share with you today, but I'd love to open it up for some Q&A.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, we have some questions here. The first one is the million-dollar question. What does the pricing look like?
Our pricing is based on a college's full-time equivalency. So your student FTEs, and there's a variance in pricing based on your features requirement.
Okay, gotcha.
Just so you know,
another one.
To that really quick, Chris, if you don't mind, just to add a clarification, because that's kind of a broad answer, really. It's FTE based, yes. And then there's feature requirements that can make that go up or down. The maximum really is right around $2 per FTE, and that's an all-in Cadillac solution of QLess. But there's another feature that we didn't really demonstrate in the presentation today that I think is really key for me to note for you guys to take away from this is something else, a valuable feature that we're delivering today is SMS post-visit surveys. So that's certainly something else that you could use us for. And what that is a student feedback collection. So since we're already engaged with the students sending SMS surveys, their final message when they leave any one of your offices can be an SMS survey. And that's a survey that each one of your departments can create. That's not something that we create. We're just the vehicle of delivery. But what colleges have found over the last 5 years that we've been doing those is it's really proven to be the most guaranteed way to get a student to give you that information is if it's in an SMS format right when they leave the service that they requested.
Okay, great. How fast can we get QLess implemented?
It's running about 6 to 8 weeks currently. We typically were about 4 to 6 weeks. Things have changed significantly for us since the pandemic has started. I think it's really true that QLess is the perfect solution for social distancing. And so our increase in business has pushed that out a little bit. So we're looking at 6 to 8 weeks now for a go live date.
And any idea how many schools are currently using QLess?
Hundreds. Hundreds. You'll find QLess across the US. Have a huge Canadian presence, and then some of the European countries as well. But we work with hundreds of universities, and that includes, you know, again, the four-year university, large, medium, and small community colleges and technical schools.
Okay. Has QLess completed the Higher Education Community Vendor Assessment Toolkit?
Yes, the heck that. Yes, that's been completed for quite some time. So we're happy to share that if that's a requirement for your school, which most oftentimes it is.
All right, I'm just scrolling through here. Some are asking about, yes, you will get a recording of the event. So that's not thing for Kelly. That might be about it. If anybody else has any questions, if you want to get them in right now, we still have time to take a few more. I will just wait here for just a little bit.
We do have time. We breeze through that, guys. I'm just displaying here some resources for you all that you might want to take advantage of. But if you have more questions, please be happy to answer them.
And also good to know for our attendees that all these resources, when they get a PDF of the slide presentation, these will all be clickable. So they'll be able to go and grab those and download them.
Yes, thank you.
So there'll be a good list of resources. Yep.
Yes.
Well, maybe we're a little shy this afternoon. Oh, wait, do I have one more? Hold on. No, that was not a question. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up. I'd like to thank our presenters today for a very informative presentation. And I'd like to thank all the audience members for joining us as well. If you do have any questions, you can still get them in, and somebody from QLess will be getting right back to you. Oh, wait a second. We got a question. Hold on.
Let's get it answered.
Who are your biggest competitors in this space, if any? In other words, how are you different from them?
Yeah, we do have a couple key competitors in higher ed specifically. The differentiators are we're 100% web-based, which everybody has really moved to. So all of the interfaces are web-based. The remote mobile queuing, the remote join, again, that's what QLess is known for. And this is really ever more relevant because that's what we want to drive students to is remote join now that we're dealing with social distancing and capacity issues in buildings, is giving them the opportunity to see wait times and join or schedule and not come until it's their turn. My competitors don't offer that mobile friendly experience. The two-way interactivity of QLess, students are able to respond back to the text messages that they get so that they can give you information about their intent to show up. So if they're not going to come, they can't make it anymore, or even if they're running late, QLess has opened that up so that they can send communication alerting you of that so you're never waiting on someone. The custom text messages is also a differentiator. I could go on, but those are some key ones. Competitors in my space, one is Qmatic, another one is NemoQ.
Thank you for that information. I think that's going to be it. I'd like to thank you again. Very well, great information. Again, the audience members for joining us. As a reminder, you'll get an email within the next few days that contains a link to the recording, along with a PDF of the slides that will have these resources. You'll be able to click on these links and click on the request a demo, which will probably be a great thing for everybody to do. You also will get a link to the attendance certificate. Again, thanks for participating, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.